In the misty depths of a Canadian forest, where ancient trees whisper secrets of forgotten times, a young woman stands at the crossroads of cultures. Her eyes, bright with determination, reflect the flickering flames of a ceremonial fire. Around her, faces etched with the wisdom of generations mingle with those marked by journeys across vast oceans. This is no ordinary gathering, but the birth of something extraordinary, a tapestry of humanity, woven from the threads of indigenous wisdom and immigrant dreams. As the smoke rises, carrying prayers and hopes to the star-studded sky, we witness the unfolding of a tale so rare, so vital, that it demands to be told. For in this moment, in this sacred space between worlds, a revolution of the heart is taking root. A revolution that will challenge our perceptions, shatter our preconceptions, and redefine the very essence of what it means to belong. Dear viewer, prepare yourself. For you are about to embark on a journey that will transport you to the very edges of human connection, where the ancient and the new dance in a delicate balance, and where the power of understanding can reshape destinies. This is the story of Sarah Thunderbird, a young Canadian visionary, and her audacious dream to bridge worlds that have long stood apart. It is a tale of courage, of cultural alchemy, and of the extraordinary magic that happens when we dare to reach across the chasms that divide us. Are you ready to have your world turned upside down? To see through eyes not your own? To feel the heartbeat of a nation in transformation? Then lean in close, for the fire is warm and the night is long. And in the shadows cast by its flickering light, miracles are waiting to be born. Before we delve deeper into this mesmerizing tale, we invite you to become part of our ever-growing circle of seekers and dreamers. Subscribe now to our channel and join a community of minds hungry for stories that challenge, inspire, and transform. By clicking that subscribe button, you're not just following a channel, you're lighting a beacon in the darkness, signaling to the world that you stand for unity, understanding, for the breaking down of walls. And why stop there? Ring that notification bell and ensure that no chapter of this unfolding saga escapes your notice. For in each video, in each story we share, lies the potential to change a life, perhaps even your own. Remember, dear viewer, in this age of chaos and division, your choice to listen, to learn, open your heart, it matters. Matters more than you know. So, are you with us? Are you ready to be part of something greater than yourself? The choice is yours. Time is now. Subscribe, and let the journey begin. As the embers of our opening fire settle into a steady glow, let us peel back the layers of time and circumstance that led to this moment of cultural conflict. Our story begins not in the forests where we first glimpsed Sarah Thunderbird, but in the sterile corridors of a bustling Toronto hospital, where Sarah, then a wide-eyed nurse fresh out of training, first felt the stirrings of her destiny. Picture, if you will, a night shift like any other. The antiseptic air thick with the hum of machines and the whispered anxieties of the ill. Sarah moves from room to room, a beacon of comfort in the institutional gloom. But on this night, fate has placed in her care two patients, whose lives will intertwine with hers in ways none could foresee. In one room, an elderly Indigenous man, his face a map of years and sorrows, struggles for breath. His eyes, when they open, seem to look beyond the confines of the hospital walls to distant lands and forgotten times. In the next room, a young Syrian refugee, her body battered by a harrowing journey, clutches her newborn child with a fierceness born of fear and hope. As Sarah tends to them both, she becomes a bridge between worlds, translating not just words, but experiences, fears, and dreams. In the old man's faltering voice, she hears echoes of a culture fighting for survival. In the young mother's tentative smile, she sees the fragile promise of new beginnings. It is here, in this crucible of human vulnerability, the seed of Sarah's vision takes root. For in the stark hospital light, she sees with sudden clarity the invisible threads that bind us all, the universal language of pain, hope, the desperate need to be understood. As dawn breaks, painting the Toronto skyline in hues of possibility, Sarah makes a vow. She will create a space where these two worlds, the Indigenous and the immigrant, can meet, not in the sterile confines of a hospital, but in the fertile ground of mutual understanding and respect. But visions, dear viewer, are easy to conceive in the emotional aftermath of a long night. The real challenge lies in bringing them to fruition in a world often resistant to change. And so begins Sarah's Odyssey, a journey that will test her resolve, challenge her assumptions, and ultimately reshape the cultural landscape of her nation. From the hospital, we follow Sarah as she navigates the labyrinthine bureaucracy of government offices. Her passion often met with skepticism, her ideas dismissed as the naive dreams of youth. We see her burning the midnight oil, poring over grant applications, her small apartment transformed into a war room of cultural revolution. But Sarah is not deterred, for in her veins runs the blood of ancestors who survived against all odds, who held on to their stories when all else was taken. She carries within her the resilience of her Indigenous heritage and the adaptability learned in urban Toronto. And it is this unique fusion that gives her the strength to persevere. Months pass, marked by setbacks and small victories. Sarah's project, which she names Bridges of Understanding, begins to take shape. Her first breakthrough comes in the form of Elder Joseph, a respected figure in the local Indigenous community. In his weathered face, Sarah sees echoes of the old man from the hospital, and in his wisdom, she finds the guidance she so desperately needs. Elder Joseph becomes her ambassador to the Indigenous world, opening doors that would have remained firmly shut to an outsider. Through him, Sarah learns the delicate art of approaching a community with respect, listening before speaking, understanding the weight of history that bears down on every interaction. Parallel to her work with the Indigenous community, Sarah reaches out to immigrant groups across Toronto. In community centers and places of worship, in ESL classes and refugee shelters, she shares her vision. Many are skeptical at first, wary of yet another program that promises much and delivers little. There's something in Sarah's earnestness, in the fire of her conviction, that breaks through barriers of cynicism. Slowly, painstakingly, Sarah begins to weave a network of connection. She organizes small gatherings, intimate affairs where elders from Indigenous communities share stories with wide-eyed immigrants, where traditional songs mingle with the rhythms of distant land. These meetings are not always smooth. Misunderstandings arise, old prejudices surface, cultural differences threaten to derail the fragile bonds being formed. But it is in these moments of tension that Sarah's true gift shines. With a patience born of her nursing days, she mediates, explains, and most importantly encourages both sides to see beyond their differences to the common humanity that unites them. One such gathering stands out in the tapestry of Sarah's journey. Picture a community hall on the outskirts of Toronto, air heavy with the scent of sage and unfamiliar spices. An Indigenous elder demonstrates the art of dreamcatcher weaving to a group of Syrian refugees. As nimble fingers work with sinew and willow, stories begin to flow, tales of displacement, loss, of the struggle to keep culture alive in foreign lands. Slowly, the realization dawns that despite the vast differences in their experiences, there is a common thread: the fight to preserve identity in a world that often demands assimilation. Tears are shed, laughter shared. By the end of the night, something has shifted. The dreamcatchers they create become more than mere objects. They are physical manifestations of newfound understanding, of bridges built between hearts. This success, small though it may seem, becomes the catalyst for larger events. Sarah's program gains traction, attracting attention from local media. And with attention comes scrutiny. Critics emerge, accusing Sarah of cultural appropriation, of naive idealism, reopening old wounds. Lesser spirits might have faltered under such attacks, but Sarah stands firm. She addresses criticisms head-on, admitting to mistakes, adjusting her approach, always keeping sight of the larger goal. Transparency and willingness to learn endear her to both communities, strengthening rather than weakening her position. As Bridges of Understanding grows, so too does its impact. We see immigrant children learning traditional Indigenous crafts, their small hands guided by patient elders. We witness Indigenous youth finding common ground with young refugees through shared stories of displacement and resilience. In community gardens, traditional Indigenous plants grow alongside herbs from distant lands, a living metaphor for the program's ethos. But perhaps the most powerful testament to Sarah's vision comes in the form of unexpected alliances. Take, for example, the unlikely friendship that blossoms between Aisha, a hijab-wearing grandmother from Somalia, and Tom, a gruff indigenous hunter nearing his 8th decade. Their first meeting is a study in contrast. Aisha, reserved and slightly fearful, Tom, brusque and skeptical. But as they are paired for a traditional craft workshop, something magical happens. Tom's calloused hands, so sure with a hunting knife, fumble with the delicate beadwork. Aisha, seeing his frustration, gently guides him, her own fingers moving with the muscle memory of years spent creating intricate henna design. As they work, they talk. Tom speaks of his childhood in residential schools, of the pain of having his language and customs stripped away. Aisha listens, her eyes filling with tears, for in his words she hears echoes of her own grief. The loss of home, the struggle to hold on to identity in a strange land. By the end of the day, an unspoken understanding has formed between them. And in the weeks that follow, we see this understanding blossom into a deep friendship. Tom teaches Aisha to fish in the traditional way, while she introduces him to the complex spices of Somali cuisine. Their laughter, ringing out over lake shores and kitchen stoves, becomes a testament to the transformative power of Sarah's program. As word of Bridges of Understanding spreads, Sarah finds herself thrust into the national spotlight. Government officials who once dismissed her now clamor for photo opportunities. Requests pour in from other cities, eager to replicate her success. But with greater visibility comes greater responsibility. Sarah must now navigate the treacherous waters of politics and public opinion, all while staying true to the grassroots spirit that made her program successful. It's a balancing act that tests her limits, forcing her to confront her own biases and blind spot. In one particularly poignant moment, we find Sarah alone in her apartment, surrounded by the detritus of her work, grant proposals, event flyers, thank you notes from participants. The weight of her mission presses down upon her, and for a brief moment, we see the vulnerability behind the visionary. She questions herself, wonders if she's doing more harm than good, if she's truly qualified to bridge such vast cultural divides. But then her eyes fall upon a small dream catcher, a gift from that first workshop. Woven into its web are not just the traditional materials, but threads of brightly colored silk, a Syrian participant's contribution. This small object, this tangible symbol of cultural exchange, renews Sarah's resolve. As our story nears its end, we return to the forest clearing where we began. But the scene has changed. The small fire has grown into a bonfire, around which hundreds gather. Indigenous elders sit shoulder to shoulder with recent immigrants. Children of all backgrounds play together, their laughter a melody of hope. Sarah stands at the edge of the clearing, watching the fruits of her labor. She's older now, lines of experience etched around her eyes. The fire of purpose still burns bright within them. As she surveys the scene, a young girl approaches, the daughter of Syrian refugees, wearing a traditional indigenous beaded necklace. "Tell me again," the girl asks, her eyes wide with wonder. "How did all this begin?" Sarah smiles, takes the girl's hand, and begins to speak. And as her words float out over the gathering, we understand that this is more than just a retelling of her journey. It is the passing of a torch, a continuation of a dream that has only just begun to realize its potential. For in this clearing, on this night, we witness the birth of a new kind of community, one that honors the past while embracing the future, celebrates differences while recognizing our common humanity. It is a vision of what Canada, indeed what the world could be, if only we have the courage to reach across the divisions that separate us. As the fire burns low and the stars wheel overhead, we are left with a profound sense of possibility. For if one young woman with a dream can create such change, what might we accomplish if we all dared to build bridges instead of walls? The story of Sarah Thunderbird and Bridges of Understanding is more than just a tale of cultural exchange. It is a call to action, challenge to each of us to look beyond our own experiences, to seek understanding where we once saw only different. It is a reminder that in a world increasingly fraught with division, the simple act of reaching out, truly seeing one another, can be the most radical act of all. As the embers of our tale fade and the last echoes of Sarah's story settle into your heart, we stand at a crossroads much like the one she faced. The path forward is illuminated, not by the harsh glare of certainty, but by the gentle, flickering light of possibility. Dear viewer, choice now lies with you. Will you carry the spark of Sarah's vision forward into your own life? Will you dare to build bridges where others see only chasms? The world is crying out for healers, for bridge builders, for those brave enough to stand in the space between cultures and weave a new narrative of unity. You, yes you, have the power to be that change. So we challenge you, take the first step. Reach out to someone from a different background. Listen to their story with an open heart. Share a meal, learn a craft, exchange a song. For it is in these small acts of connection that the seeds of global transformation are sown. But don't stop there. Share this video far and wide. Let Sarah's story ignite a flame of inspiration in hearts across the globe. For every share, every like, every comment is a declaration. A declaration that you believe in a world where differences are celebrated, not feared. And remember, this is just the beginning. Subscribe to our channel and join us on this journey of discovery. Together, we'll explore more stories of cultural alchemy, of brave souls standing at the crossroads of tradition and innovation. The fire may have died down, but the real magic is just beginning. Are you ready to be part of it? Choice is yours. The time is now. Let's build those bridges, one story at a time.